Okay. So, what do you mean by communication? What is communication?
Exchange of ideas.
Yes. What is communication?
To deliver something
Definition
that
of
we want to
communication.
convey.
Okay. And what else? What do you mean by communication? Are you used to not speaking in the class? Yeah, so,
Exchange of ideas from one person to another.
okay. And
Communication
Means
is giving thoughts and sharing ideas, giving
hmm,
instructions also.
hmm. Now I keep giving you instructions, I keep expressing ideas, but I don't get a response. So is that communication?
No, ma'am, in both direction. In the
No, ma'am.
guy to whom we are talking should also give their opinion, their view, and we should also give our opinion on their thought, and
Hmm.
we should share whatever is in our mind
Hmm.
in such a way that we both are thinking the same thing.
Hmm. So what is communication?
Ma'am, means of sending or receiving information.
Okay. Derrida's theory of deconstruction has a very similar resonance with that of the Buddhist concept of nihilism. Yes. So I was trying to communicate something. Could you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, can you repeat?
Yes, ma'am.
Derrida's theory of deconstruction has a very similar resonance with that of the Buddhist nihilism.
Ma'am, Buddhist, what you said after Buddhist was, I was
Nihilism.
unable to. Oh,
You were unable to?
listen, your
Nihilism.
voice was breaking a little. So, okay.
Yes. What happened? Why did you all go so silent?
Most of us don't have any idea what to say.
Why? Why you didn't have an idea? Why? What was the problem? See, you got to be a little proactive. You have to respond a little promptly in the class. Yeah. At least in my class. That is what I expect. Yeah.
Ma'am,
So,
this
what
subject
was the
is
problem?
totally new for us. We never studied this kind of subject, so it is totally new.
So,
We don't know actually how to respond. We don't have accurate ideas on these topics.
why? Why
We
don't you
never
have an idea?
thought so deeply in these things.
There is nothing to think deeply. But I told you a sentence. So, what was the problem? Why did you not respond? In very simple words, why did you not respond? What about others? Why don't you speak at all in the class? Hmm. What happened, Asutosh Ranjan? Ashutosh Ranjan,
Yes, ma'am.
are you there in the class? Yeah. Tell me. And boss baby, Ashish Sahu, boss baby is out, not responding, sleeping. You're sleeping. Hmm. So, Bhumika Jena, your response on this statement. Bhumika, you know, it's really uh, it's so annoying to uh, to interact with you people. It's very annoying because you don't respond. I told you a sentence and you don't respond. What was the problem? I gave you a sentence. I spoke a sentence. Uh, Swayam Jyoti. What was the problem? Why could you not
Yes, ma'am.
respond? Why did you not? What was
What
the
was the
problem?
statement again?
I gave you a statement.
That Buddhism one.
Hmm.
Ma'am, what to say on that?
Anything that you feel like?
It was like a fact, ma'am, that that concept was similar to this concept. Then how can I share anything on that?
About?
I actually don't know exactly that concepts.
Okay. Anyone else? Upasana Patnaik?
Yes, ma'am.
Hmm.
Ma'am, I have no idea about it.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea.
Sorry?
Ma'am, I have no idea.
Why you have no idea? No one has given me the right word actually. I don't know, but I really don't feel the pinch to teach you. I lose all my motivation when I come to your class because your class is so very inactive, I guess. You don't articulate, you don't speak much, everyone is kind of silent. So I even don't know whether you get my point, whether you understand, you don't understand.
Ma'am, can you repeat the statement once?
I said, okay, I said that Derrida's deconstruction has a very similar resonance to that of Buddha's nihilism.
I couldn't
I don't
understand.
blame you. Even if you can't respond, why is it that you're not able to respond to this statement?
Actually,
Ma'am, couldn't understand you.
We were not able to understand what the
Because
question means.
exactly, I wanted that word because you don't understand. You could have told me long back. I wanted to listen to that particular word, understand. So, communication is all about understanding. If you don't understand, there is no communication. So even if you try to share, express, pass on the information, but if the other person doesn't understand, there is no communication at all. So you need to understand, or the other person who's speaking has to be understood for communication, to enable communication. For effective communication, we must be able to understand each other. So, understanding is the key, and that is the definition of communication. Even if you know the language well, right? I spoke in English. You know the language, but you're not able to respond to it because you don't understand the statement. So, understanding. So sometimes, even if you understand the language, you still don't understand the concept. And where there is no understanding, there is no communication. Communication does not take place when there is no understanding. Okay. So how do you define communication? Communication is being understood. Now, is this clear to you? Now, do you understand what communication is?
yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so with that note,
Yes,
we
ma'am.
start. Yeah. See, you just need to be a little proactive, little interactive. So in this unit, we will talk about the 3 reasons why public speaking skills are important. Describe the process of communication. Describe the linear and the transactional model of communication. List, define, and give an example of each of the components of communication. Differentiate between the major types of speeches. Identify the 11 core public speaking competences. So,
Ma'am, what is it?
hmm? Yes,
What was the last point?
Hmm. The 11 core public speaking competences.
Okay.
So with communication, we'll also learn a little bit of public speaking because initially I told you that this course is about critical thinking, argumentation, and public speaking. So we'll talk about the process of communication, where we try to interweave public speaking skills also as part of communication, and the core competencies of speech and the major types of speeches. But basically, we will be talking about the process of communication, the definition, and the different models of communication and the components of communication. Yeah, is that clear to all of you? Am I clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
You all feeling sleepy or what? Yes. Introduction to so the
Yes, ma'am.
purpose of uh, yeah, the purpose of this chapter is to familiarize you with the basic concepts of communication and public speaking. So it begins with a description of the personal, professional, and public benefits of learning more about public speaking also. Now, who's reading this for me? Who will read this for me?
Wherever I go, meeting the public, spreading a message of human values, spreading a message of harmony is the most important thing.
And who has said this?
Dalai Lama.
Okay. And I think all you know who Dalai Lama is. You know who Dalai Lama is?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So he says that it is important to spread the message of human values and harmony to the public. So public speaking is important for lot of people. Public speaking is quite important for leaders because they need to spread a message. They advocate for change. They advocate for the need to act, and this can be done by spreading the message to the public and through public speaking. So now, what is the personal benefit of speech making? What is the benefit of this?
And can you repeat the question again?
What is the benefit of speech making on a personal level?
We will learn how to interact with people.
Hmm?
It will make the communication easy, ma'am, and more beneficial, and make us
Oh, very good.
understand.
So most of you can speak and you choose not to speak. Okay.
Ma'am, it
Yes.
boosts our confidence.
We will learn how
Yes.
we
Yes.
can influence other.
Okay. Good. Good. So all of you are talkative people, but you choose not to talk in the class for any special reason.
No, ma'am. Actually, it's the
Why
lunch
do you?
time. After eating, everyone get. I mean, we're getting sleepy, ma'am,
Sorry,
feeling drowsy.
you feel drowsy also in the morning?
No, ma'am. After lunch time.
Yeah, but your class never speaks. No, never. Neither in the morning nor in the afternoon. Never. So once you start interacting, also you ward off your sleep as well.
Yes, ma'am.
So you don't feel drowsy anymore once you start interacting in the class. Okay, so the personal benefit of public speaking is sometimes we have to give speeches in our personal lives. It may be for a special event, or it may be uh, if we are non-working mothers, then we go to our kids' school and we have to speak something in school at times. So we need to learn to present ourselves before an audience. So we just don't give presentations on the job or in classes. We are called upon to give speeches in our personal lives on special events, special occasion, to introduce someone, to toast someone, to offer toast to someone, or to welcome someone, or maybe in a parent teacher meeting, in a PTM also. So we need to learn public speaking. Now, developing the skill to give these types of speeches can help us to fulfill essential roles in our family and community. And another personal benefit is, like someone said, build our self confidence. Because public speaking can be very frightening. But by engaging in the activity, you will build self confidence through the experience. And it starts in the class itself. So I'm giving you an opportunity to speak, and it's much more easier done on an online platform because you don't have to see others and you speak. So the fear factor reduces. So all of you can start speaking, and you can start doing that while you're interacting in the class. So this can help boost your confidence. Now, the professional benefit of public speaking is, it is believed that 70% of jobs today involve some form of public speaking. Now, with the recent economic shift from manufacturing to service careers, you must have the ability to communicate effectively with others. So, part of your interview process, your job interview, has to do with how good a communicator you are, how effectively you are able to communicate with others. And your potential employers are looking for communication skills in you. So the CEOs advise that great leaders must be able to communicate ideas effectively, and they must be able to persuade, build support, negotiate, and all this comes by speaking effectively, communicating effectively in the public to people. The communication skills has a great role to play in your career, in your advancement of your career. The public benefit of speech is, when you're learning about public speaking, this will allow you to participate in democratic processes at most basic level, because public speaking is important in creating and sustaining a society which includes informed, active participants. So, public speaking class also wants informed, active participants, right? And this is a public speaking class. So, public speaking class also expects informed and active participants, not lousy and inactive participants. Even if you do not plan to run for office, uh, run for the assembly, legislative assembly, become an MLA or MP, you still would benefit from learning public speaking because it will also help you to listen more critically and carefully to evaluate others' speeches. So, one of the skills that go with public speaking is critical listening. So, as a public speaking student, you should also be a very keen and critical listener so that you'll be able to evaluate what others are saying, how much of it is fake, how much of it is correct, and you become an informed citizen. So, public speaking helps you to participate in a democratic process, in having an informed choice. I think this is clear to all of you. The benefits of public speaking
Yes, ma'am.
uh, professionally, personally, and in a public platform.
Yes, ma'am.
Now we'll come to defining communication. So, communication can be simply defined as something which can be understood. If you don't understand, you don't communicate. So that's very rudimentary of communication. So that's the only, I guess, you have a lot of technical definition of communication, transferring of information, sharing ideas, expressing views, everything. Yes, okay, fine. But if you are not understood, you don't communicate. That's basic thing, or that's a basic element of communication, rudimentary. So remember that communication is being understood. That's the that's the rudimentary definition of communication. So communication is transferring information uh, and sharing information. So we'll talk about two models of communication to get a very clear idea of how communication process works. Any idea about how communication process works? Do you have any idea of how
When
it
one
works?
speaks and under other person understands and he replies in the response of that this is how communication works.
Perfect. Perfect. So in the process of communication, you have at least two participants. One is the sender and the other one is the receiver. And you have a message. So the sender sends a message to the receiver. We'll come to this later. Okay. So this is one model of communication, the linear model of communication, where you have a sender, where you have a channel through which you pass the message to the receiver. Now, this is called the linear model of communication because it is in a linear form, isn't it? Are the girls of the class sleeping?
Yes, ma'am.
Girls, you there?
No, ma'am.
What was that
Maybe
no
they are
for?
eating. Yeah. They might not be
So I
sleeping, but
guess
they
you are not.
may be eating.
Okay. So, where are the other girls?
Eating.
How many girls in your class?
11, ma'am.
Girls are a,
Um,
girls are a minority in your class?
very big minority.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Yeah, they are minority. How many of them are there in the class?
11 only.
Oh, and boys? 50.
50 plus around
More
60.
than
61,
50.
more than 60, 60.
Boys 60, 60, and girls
Yes, ma'am.
11.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So your total strength is 71.
Yes, ma'am.
72,
And
I
I,
think.
No, no,
and
71.
I can
61 boys. 61 boys are
Okay.
there in our class.
Okay. So most of them vanish in the CTC class, I guess, because they have to speak. I think so. I don't find you have only 59 participants, out of which I'm one. Where are the others? Rest of them? They all vanish, leave the meeting.
Netflix and chill. They are doing Netflix and chill.
Hmm?
They are chilling with Netflix.
Okay. Benefit of online classes. You are still there in the class, but you are not there in the class. So you can explore all other platforms. You can play games also. Hmm. Good.
हेलो क्लास खत्म हो गया क्या? थ्री टू वन
Hello, ma'am. Are you audible? Are we audible?
अरे मैम ऑडिबल नॉट तू ऑडिबल.
Yes, sorry, I got disconnected for quite long. Okay. So my question was, are you comfortable with the linear model of communication? Is this the right model to follow? Yes.
Yes,
Yeah. So this is the apt
Yes,
model.
ma'am.
Okay. So there is nothing left. Everything is in place. You have the sender, you have the receiver, and there's this channel through which you communicate. So perfect, isn't it?
yes, ma'am.
Yeah, sure. Is there something left?
Ma'am, privacy in channel,
Mm-hmm.
and there should be some privacy in the channel section.
Yeah, it depends on what channel you choose. If you choose to speak over the mic on the television, then there is no privacy. But if it's a WhatsApp chat, then there is a privacy. So
Yes,
depends
ma'am.
on the sender as to what channel he or she chooses. But besides that, is there everything? Is the entire process very perfect? My question is that.
Ma'am, it is unidirectional. It should be bidirectional.
Yes, yes. So communication is always transactional. Uh, Here only the sender sends in the message and the receiver receives it. But the receiver doesn't provide a feedback to the sender. So communication process must always have a loop. It always works in a loop, okay, where the receiver and the sender are connected through the loop with the element of feedback. The receiver must be sharing the feedback with the sender. So this is unidirectional, as you rightly said, yeah. Moreover, this linear model of communication assumes that the sender is the all-powerful entity here. So it is the sender who basically controls and manipulates the data, the information. And the receiver is supposed to be a very passive recipient, receiving everything and not speaking. We don't know whether the receiver is reacting or responding. We don't know. The sender even doesn't know whether the receiver is has understood the message because there is no such information with us. So the linear model doesn't reflect any kind of a transaction, any kind of a connection between the sender and the receiver, and there is no loop that connects the sender with the receiver with the sender. So it is flawed. It is flawed because communication process is a two-way process, and second, the sender is reflected or represented here as as the most powerful entity who controls and manipulates the entire message. So this is how the linear model works. The first part of the model is the sender, and this is a person who's speaking. The second part is the channel, which is the apparatus for carrying the message. It could be your mobile phone or TV. And the third part of the model is the receiver. And this is a person who picks up the message. Uh, Now, in this model, communication is seen as a one-way process of transmitting a message from one person to another, and that is why this model is flawed. Now, coming to the second model, which is the transactional model. Now, here you have two communicators. This is communicator A, and that's the this is the speaker, the sender, and the listener or the receiver. Now, what the sender does is he codifies the message. He thinks of a mental image of orange, codifies that into language, and sends the message. Because you don't know what I'm thinking. No, I have to codify that. I have to represent that. I have to encode that in a certain language which is understandable by you, which you can understand. So I codify, I encode that mental image into language. So here the sender has the image of an orange, and he codifies that into language, saying orange, and he sends it to the receiver. Now the receiver uh, receives the message, and he hears orange, and he again transforms that into the mental image. He decodifies it. So orange is again decodified as into mental image of what he thinks. He analyzes it and gives a feedback. Right. So you drink orange juice every morning. So he says, no, I eat an orange every morning. The sender says, I drink juice, orange juice every morning. Okay, so he says, so this is how the message is communicated. And this is called a transactional model of communication. Now, do you think this is okay? I mean, this model is fine. So, communication is seen as an ongoing circular process. Right? And between the two, we are constantly affecting and are affected by those we communicate with. And the transactional model has a number of interdependent processes and components, including the encoding and decoding process, the communicator, the message, the channel, and noise. So, does this model work for you? Yes, no.
Yes, ma'am.
Show that
Yes,
point.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there anything left in this model? What about if the sender says orange and the receiver understands the color and not the fruit? And what is that called? That is called
Confusion.
noise.
Ma'am, there are some problems in the
So
channel.
communication always has this element of noise. Sorry?
He needs to then clarify to that
Yeah?
orange
Was
is
someone saying something? No? Okay. Can you be a little louder, Gurman? Yes. Please
uh,
speak a little louder. I failed to. Yeah.
I was saying the person needs to also clarify that he's speaking about the fruit orange. That will be lacking in this case.
Yes. Yes, Gurman. But most of the time, uh, this explanation also doesn't work because of the numerous barriers that comes into the process of communication, which is called noise. This could be a very simple noise which can be clarified at the end of the sender. But at times there is noise means I mean the metaphor for all kind of obstructions in the process of communication, and that's a very significant part of communication process. So if you want to represent communication process, you cannot eliminate uh, the component of noise. Noise noise means any kind of obstruction or barrier in the process of communication, anything which hinders our understanding. That could be a very simple miscommunication like this: orange not being the color but being the fruit, or that could be a very complicated barrier, which we'll talk about in the next class. So, no communication is process is complete without the element of with the element of noise. So, noise is inherently present in the process of communication, which is not signified, which is not represented in the linear model of communication. Uh, and that is why it is flawed. Now here we have communicator A and communicator B. This is communicator A and this is communicator B. And communicator, we use the term communicator instead of sender and listener because sender and receiver sounds a lot more colonialist, where sender is very empowering and encompassing, and receiver is very passive. So receiver is not passive because a receiver has to be actively involved in the process. So uh, we try to ignore these two terms, sender and receiver, and instead we bring in communicator A and communicator B. Now, communicator A and communicator B have their own reality, have their own worldview. So, A has a certain perception, B has his or her own perception. For them for communication to be enabled between these two participants, there has to be some common grounding, some commonality between the two. Linguistic, of course, and perceptual. A little bit of perception match should be there. If there is no common grounding, no commonality between these two, then communication is never ever possible. So, for communication to be possible, there must be a common grounding between these two, because the blue part, the blue shade, is consist of their own individual perception, which could be extremely different from each other. A's thought process, A's worldview, A's perception could be completely different from that of B. But for communication to take place, there has to be a little common grounding. So the white space in between is the shared space where they can communicate because of common language, maybe, or because of a certain degree of shared perception, and they communicate verbally as well as non-verbally. Now, A's intended meaning is not the same as B's perceived meaning. So, the question for you for the next class is, why is it so? And I would at least expect 5 answers from your class. I think that's
Ma'am,
in a class. Yeah.
because there is no feedback from the send from the receiver to the sender that what he is understanding.
No, no, there is a
There must
feedback.
be any. Oh,
There is a feedback. Feedback is there. Uh,
then I don't
but
know.
yeah, that is a homework for all of you. At
Ma'am,
least
but
I expect of a
ma'am, but in that
class of
ma'am, in that case
yeah.
of sender channel and receiver case, the feedback is not possible sometimes.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah,
Like
if
ma'am,
it's in a
some politicians like they want to speak to the public in the crowds, they will
hmm,
speak until and
hmm,
unless they want, but they don't care
hmm,
about the public is listening or not. They will go ahead to speak only,
hmm,
but they will not take any feedback. They just speak on their mic and listen, and they will speak until they unless they want. So
hmm,
what's that, man? There's no feedback channel in that between them.
hmm. That's a public speech occasion. That's the occasion is public speaking. So in public speaking, we rely on many other factors. Good public speakers uh, try to identify with the audience, like our Modi ji says. He tries to identify with the audience. He tries to take a feedback. He makes people repeat after him. So all these are technicalities of good public speakers. No, but my question is something different. So the one takeaway message for all of you for today's class is, even those who are Netflixing and gaming, the one takeaway message from this class is communication. The definition of communication is that it has to be understood. If it's not understood, it's not communication. That's the takeaway. The question, the homework is, why is the intended meaning of communicator A not the same as the perceived meaning of communicator B? And in the next class, I can expect at least 5 answers for this question from 5 participants out of 71 participants. I didn't know. I just I knew today that you're 71 because I hardly see any. At best, I see 61. So uh, I can expect at least 5 sensible answers for this question. So that's the homework and that's the takeaway. Goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.